Evening, peoples. We are apparently live according to the little yellow button up the top right-hand corner, which I never believe. I decided to do this hangout after accidentally. Okay, who's playing it back? Because it ain't me. Cliff. Thank you. Yeah. I decided to do this hangout because I happened upon a documentary called Alien Planet. And it was about little probes that had been sent to an alien planet, and it was the hypotheticals of, what they would do, how they would investigate it, and all the rest of it. But that got me thinking, what should we do if we were in the situation where we had a very strong suspicion there was life on an alien planet? What should we do about it? And I'm going to use the people in here as guinea pigs. They're going to be the ones that are going to be faced with the decisions that they have to make. And with a bit of luck, every now and again I'll throw them a curveball. But I'd like to think about the practicalities, the ethical implications of the action that we should take. Because it would be one of those things where you would be completely in the dark. If anybody wants to join, contact myself or Cliff for the link. Cliff seems to be the competent tech guy in here when it comes to giving out links and keeping an eye on chat. So,
and forgetting to turn off the audio on the other one.
Oh yeah, you're going to get your backside spanked. So,
suit you.
So, we think about this one. A wee probe has been sent out some time ago, and we get back, one of those wee probes that's going to orbit, and it's going to collect information about a planet, the chemical makeup, the conditions on the surface of the planet, and all the rest of it. But it detects something that means that we now are almost convinced that this planet has got some form of life on it. And of course the little probe downloads that data back to Earth. What are your first considerations going to be? In that, do we launch a probe? A different probe, one that could actually land? Or do we ignore it and hide? And one of the other reasons that I'm interested in this is because I take part in the Zooniverse project, Planet Hunters, and so far I've found 2 exoplanets, which I'm very proud of. But if Cliff could just screen share a picky of the Milky Way galaxy, which is our own galaxy.
Wrong one.
And that is over 2 billion stars in our galaxy alone. That's just that one galaxy. And then if he screen shares the other picture that I've got him linked to, that's the Hubble Deep Field. And the Hubble Deep Field telescope, they pointed it at a very, very small patch of sky which seemed to be completely empty. And they took a number of long exposures and put them all together of this completely empty piece of sky. And this is the image they got. And I don't know if Cliff can zoom in just a little bitty on that. And you will see that each little smudge there is a galaxy. Not a star, a galaxy. There are spiral galaxies, elliptical galaxies, all sorts. They are galaxies. And some of them smaller than our Milky Way, some of them bigger than our Milky Way. But you start adding together every single smudge on that being a galaxy. And this is a tiny, tiny piece of the sky, the equivalent of looking through a drinking straw. So if just in that one tiny piece of sky we have all of these galaxies, and given how many stars are in a galaxy, and given that the number of exoplanets that have been found now seems to suggest that not having a planet around a star is going to be the unusual thing. And in fact, those stars where they have found a planet seem to have more than one. So it looks like that out there are going to be millions of planets, billions of planets. And so the chances of life being on one of them is probably quite good. And so having looked at all of this, I thought to myself, right, we're going to try this one out. So there's my question. We're going to pick a star that isn't too far away. We don't want one that's 6 billion light years away. That's no use. So we've picked a close-ish one. Our little probe has sent back the data, and looks like there's a very good chance that there is life on this planet. Now, it's outside our solar system. Okay, that's the one stipulation. It is out with our own solar system. So, you are the wee guy, Cliff Jumper. You're the wee guy that gets the data in from the probe. And you have to report and advise on what we should do about this. What's your gut feeling?
My first gut feeling is I don't like being called a wee guy. But yeah, I mean, first of all, I just looked something up. There are roughly 2,000 stars at a distance of up to 50 light years from our solar system. 64 of them are yellow G-type star systems like our own sun. As many as 15% of those can have Earth-sized planet in the habitable zone, so the Goldilocks zone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just 50 light years away. That's not very far away. If you think about the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second,
mm-hmm.
and it would take 50 miles. So if you can accelerate to 186,000 miles per second, it's going to take you a while to get there, and that's a hell of a stopping distance as well. But that's going to take 50 years to get there. So, that's in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So if you're in charge here, right? You've got your message from your probe. You've looked at your data, and you have got to go and report on this. You're going to have to report on this to the king of the world, obviously, because this is I was going to say earth-shattering news. It's galaxy-shattering news. So, and you're going to have to advise them. So your gut feeling on whether we should immediately start getting organised to send out another probe which can land on the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the key things about us is we're not just asking questions, but we're looking for new questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we found life on another planet. Awesome. What's it like? That's the first thing that we ask. What's it like? Let's go and find out. I mean, the main thing is that, I think the biggest obstacle to such a thing is overcoming the whole money thing. We're not going to Mars. That's just the, next door neighbor planet.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too expensive. We've got other things we want to spend money on.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the first thing we have to overcome. So it's the willpower to be able to say, this is important. This is an important thing to do, and it's not going to be our generation that feels it, that gets the answers.
Mm-hmm.
You might be talking, your grandkids' generation. They would have to be the scientists that get the answers to this.
Right. So you are in favour of sending off another, at least one unmanned probe that would be able to land on the surface of that planet. Fabio, you're king of the world, and Cliff Jumper has just told you his data and given you his recommendation. And I'm assuming that you like his idea. But, oh yes, this must be investigated.
I've got to take a step back, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
The first problem we have to figure out is how can we actually find proofs of alien life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have probes,
mm-hmm.
and we have radio receivers.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of problems with both of those solutions. The one with the probe is, and this is a genuine question, how do you figure out that on a planet there is life or not?
Well, I think I'm thinking along the lines of the reasonable conditions on the surface of the planet, composition, but also that the probe, in taking some of its wonderful photographs of the surface of the planet, has detected structures.
Well, photographs is, I mean, it's not really practical, because you need something that the probe itself is able to analyze.
Yeah.
And so basically you have to decide the criteria before. And you can't do that with photographs because, what would be the criteria?
No, I mean, your probe would also have been looking at the composition of the atmosphere, composition of the surface.
But
onboard instruments.
No, yeah, but you know better than me that the probes, especially the deep space probes, are really small, and
mm-hmm.
space is an issue. You can't put too much stuff into that because stuff breaks down. You got to use simple technology. Now, we have solved that problem, by the way. So the first one was a rhetorical question. There is a probe, the Galileo probe.
Mm-hmm.
That it used the Earth as a gravitational slingshot, and the Galileo probe has some sensors which are able to analyze if there is life on other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way it does is by analyzing lights. There are some criteria. They are called the Sagan criteria from Carl Sagan, that they basically involve, well, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they involve some chemical components that you can find in the atmosphere, which are tied to photosynthesis and stuff like that. Now, the funny thing is that we already tested those probes, we already tested those sensors, and the way we did it, which is quite funny if you ask me, was when the probe was actually using the Earth as a slingshot, they activated those sensors.
Mm-hmm.
and they wonder, I mean, they were actually looking for life on Earth,
Mm-hmm.
So they figure out that the data was consistent. So we have a way, I mean, it is we can say that we have at least one probe over there, the Galileo probe, which is going to go in deep space, which is able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it will tell you nothing about the kind of life which will find. You might
exactly.
find, you might find a green planet. Something which might tell us the kind of life, extraterrestrial life, would be receiving some signals of some sort.
Mm-hmm. No, in this hypothetical, we haven't received any signals.
It is spectrography. Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
So if we haven't received any signals, we are basically shooting blanks because so far the probes that we have will only be able to tell us that they eventually find a planet where there is some sort of life, but that sort of life might be grass,
Yes.
or might be. So I mean, the only sensible thing to do is, to send towards that planet, probes, more sophisticated ones, and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, just send probes. The thing is that when we get some data back, then we have to decide what to do. Even if I don't think it's actually a decision that we will make, because that will be a decision which it will be made for us. Because if we find a planet with less advanced life forms than we have, I mean, we can go there. I mean, if history teaches something, what we will probably do is, go over there and exploit the fuck out of them.
That occurred to me as well. Yeah.
If the civilization is more advanced than us, we'll be royally fucked, because they will figure out that who we are, where we are, and the level of technology that we have. So again, if this is a big stretch, because the only history we have is the Earth history. But if they have if they have an history which is similar to us, they will come to us and fuck us in the ass. So
Yes.
it is going to be somebody fucking someone. And I just hope I'll be not on the receiving end.
I just sort of imagined as when you said about them looking at us, we come across an alien species. And, oh yeah, we've heard of you. Like, you're mental.
Well, maybe not.
Come back later.
Yeah. So I don't really think this would be the kind of event that we will actually have to make some decisions, because they either come to us or we go to them. If we go to them, it's because we are pretty sure that we can we will be in a position that we can well, I wouldn't say conquer the war, but we'll be in a stronger position, even because there's some I'm not even going to the technical problems. A trip like that, it would take decades and decades and decades. So by the time it goes there, things have been changed. I mean, the people which goes there, they might not even have a planet to come back. Depending on the situations.
There's that's something interesting. You said the people who go, and now that was going to be my next question, because if we decide that we are going to send off probes, should we actually be sending unmanned craft or manned craft? I mean, my first thought was unmanned.
No, yeah, I mean, those will be the first ones. That's what they said at the beginning. We have to figure out exactly what we will be dealing with.
I mean, one of the first stages. I mean, unless we figure out how to go faster than the speed of light,
which we can't.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, something's only impossible until it's not. So whether you can create wormholes to connect, one place to another, all sorts of weird ideas, but who knows if any of those are possible. But the first steps that we'll be making will be transgenerational ships. So effectively ships that have families and children, because those children will have children, and those children might be the ones that do the investigating. So it'll have to be a generational thing, because, imagine if I'm 42 years old. If I could get to the speed of light, as I mentioned before, and the nearest one is 50 light years from here, it's still going to take me 50 years to get there. I will be 92 years old. Do you think I'll be in any state to be able to go on a planet and have a look around and things like that? I mean, dementia may have set in by the time I'm halfway there. Who knows?
Well, there are shortcuts. I mean, there is suspended animation. There are things which we can do. I don't think we can totally suspend all the vital functions, but we can pretty much stabilize them, and really make them really slow. The thing is that 52 light years, it will still take you about 200 years to go there. So it's I don't know how feasible is that. The spaceship we have to be fucking complex, and I think the best way to do a thing like that is with generational spaceships, at least the first ones. We won't know exactly what happens to a spaceship, in that amount of time. It'll probably break down. The people which have to fix that and come up with things, it's not just a problem of maintenance. It's a problem of finding new solutions to problems that we don't even know what they will be. So if we have to go there, from the moment that we know that there's life on one planet, we're talking. We're talking about 700, 800, 900 years, from the moment that we know there is life, to establish a first proper contact. And again, it's those kind of questions that they really ask. We are spoiled by movies, where people just appear out of nowhere and say, oh, we got to make up our mind. We got to figure out a language. We got to figure out shit. Well, it might. Chances are it won't happen that way.
The first thing to do is establish what it is we're looking at. Because it could be nothing more than, moss and microbes. It could be, complicated animal life, or it could be intelligent life, something like ourselves or even smarter.
Listen, I would be happy if we could find intelligent life down here.
Yeah, well, I was actually thinking about that, but I thought that might be snarky.
Yeah, but I've been trying to find a quote which I cannot find. And it comes from The Forge of God by Greg Bear. It's fiction. But the quote goes along the lines of something about a child who is alone in the forest and is crying, and the sound of their crying draws the wolves. That's always stuck in my mind. As Fabio said, if they're more advanced than us and we go blundering in, we could cause ourselves all sorts of problems.
Yeah, one thing's for sure, we would certainly need systems, protocols.
And also, from the same book, another quote which struck me as, it just makes you think about this. We've been sitting in our tree chirping like foolish birds for over a century now, wondering why no other birds answered. The galactic skies are full of hawks. That's why. Planetisms that don't know enough to keep quiet get eaten. It's just a thought, because I think when we think about these questions of going and trying to, if we think there's life on another planet, we always seem to think, it seems to be a mindset that we are the advanced life form that's going to see these primitive ones, but it might not be like that. And so there's a couple of problems when it comes to deciding what you're going to send. You've got just the logistics of it, the money, the time, and all the rest of it. And you've also got to take into account the dangers to your home planet should you do that.
Yeah, we might be telling a dangerous species where we are.
Yeah, I've just found that quote. There was once an infant lost in the woods, crying its heart out, wondering why no one answered, drawing down the wolves. It's a horrible thought, isn't it?
Mm.
So, the Fabio touched on that we could be opening a whole can of extraterrestrial worms.
Yeah, but there is also the fact of, I mean, why should we go there?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what is the reason? Why?
Because
I mean, it's going
humans
to
are
cost
nosy. Humans are
what?
really nosy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's going to cost you a shit ton of money,
Mm-hmm.
resources, manpower. The question is, can we really afford to do that? And then what? I mean,
Yeah.
there is nothing that we can gain from that, even if even if we find the most beautiful planet ever, okay, full of resources, stuff like you could dream of.
Mm-hmm.
It would be impractical anyway, so there would be no point. I mean, we're better off mining asteroids, for resources and stuff like that. So the reason is, why should we do that? Yeah, I mean, there is stuff over there. We will send scientific probes, to study that. But why should we really go there?
Uh-huh.
I think
So-
like, the first thing is the money thing, because we effectively have to get over ourselves and say that the quest is more important, the knowledge of it is more important than the cost.
Yeah, but what exactly is the quest? That's what I'm asking. What is the quest exactly?
To find out what's different from us, and are we standard?
We send probes for that. You don't
That's
need
right.
people. You don't need people to go there.
Sorry, okay, I see what you mean now. Right, sorry. I thought you were talking about just not necessarily us going, but us sending probes out there and so on.
We're talking about contact,
Well, at the moment, we've got as far as sending probes that can actually reach the surface, because our little probe that first came up with this was never intended to land on a planet. So, do we send? Should we send out another craft with probes on board? Probes which can actually land on the surface.
Landing on a planet is really the last step. First, you want to send up way more probes, which they orbit the planet. You can get way more information that way, and landing is just the last resort. I would say that there is close to nothing that we can't learn from space that we can learn from actually landing on the planet.
Yeah, but if we have gathered all the information that we can from orbit, should we go ahead and land on the planet?
Yeah, I mean, we already ruined the planet anyway. So if your problem is contamination or stuff like that, just by sending probes, even in the upper atmosphere, we have contaminated the planet anyway. So, I mean, by the moment that we have to make up our mind for us to actually land something on the planet, we will have the necessary information if we're gonna, fuck up something or not.
Mm-hmm.
So
as king of the world, Cliff's given you the information that he's got. And what are you going to decide then, Fabio?
I'm gonna send more probes and see what they see what info they gather. I mean,
right, Soy. So if you're king of the world, and Cliff Jumper has given you the information, what's your decision?
More or less the same as Fabio, I think. So I kind of have a slightly different starting point from it, seeing as I would assume that if we were actually at one point setting out to venture into exploring these cases, we would be at a point where travel to such a location would take less than one generation, simply for the fact that when you're talking science in space, it's about time more than anything else. And you want the same people that essentially write the missions ideally, or at least be part of the teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. And I would also assume that equipment we send out. So even let's assume we can't do faster than light communication. So a mission has to be pre-programmed and has to follow certain parameters when it gets there. So I would assume that we're entering a polar orbit and we're mapping the surface and the environment as much as possible. So I would assume to have a near complete data set for a mission like this as a first report back, or something that you set in motion so that it can stay there for, say, a couple of years even, and just continuously collect data, so you don't have to send new probes, and new probes. Because it's much more efficient, even if it's extremely costly to do it as a one-off mission. It's still much more efficient to launch a massive probe, as in a literal lots of mass with lots of equipment, than to send shitloads of small ones. Not to mention the time it takes.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, no, sorry.
So you would be for sending a probe with multiple capabilities to gather even more information, but without actually landing on the surface?
Yes. Well, part of that is because I would also do it from a distance. I wouldn't enter like low orbit or anything like that, and I would be worried about contamination, not just sending microbes, right? Let's assume there's some form of biological life that isn't just plant life. Now, does it have DNA the same way we do? If it does, do life have the same kind of microbes as we do, i.e. viruses and bacteria, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens if some extremophobe or some strand of virus or bacteria from Earth that we might see as completely benign and it's not harmful to anything, that could wreck all of life on said planet? Or we could introduce a hybrid, right? So all of a sudden this benign thing is now essentially the worst plague we've ever encountered if we happen to travel there later. So I would be for avoiding contact with the actual planet's surface or atmosphere for as long as possible. And I would also assume simply that by the simple fact that we would be able to enter orbit around the planet, I would draw mainly one out of two conclusions. That's the one: either the life on there is not intelligent enough to be spacefaring in any capacity, or two, they would be less violent than us. As in, if they would be technologically superior to us, they would have seen this thing coming, and if they were hostile, they would have blown it out of the sky, obviously after figuring out where its origin is from. Now, so I would assume simply by the fact that we would get data from such a mission, it would be either a planet with less intelligent life, or maybe not less intelligent, but at least not spacefaring in any capacity. And two, that if they are spacefaring, they are, I'm not going to say non-violent, but at least less than human violent. So to me, that would be some immediate conclusions to be drawn from it.
Right. So you are all for orbiting, but not landing on?
Yes.
Yeah. Rational Mind, have you managed to get yourself sorted out yet?
Yeah.
Right. So you're now king of the world.
Right.
Are you in agreement with the other two, or would you do something different?
I think from what I've heard, I think probably mostly in agreements. I'm still a bit unclear on what the premises are of So what kind of signal are we getting? So
We're not getting a
the
signal.
first thing is
We're
Sorry?
not getting a signal. We're not getting a signal.
what I know not an actual signal, but what kind of data are we getting that suggests that there's life? So first thing is confirm it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be sure, especially if you want to make an announcement to the world, we found alien life. You need to be sure about that.
Yeah.
You can't just make that sort of willy-nilly. So first you have to be sure, and that again, it depends on the kind of data you're getting, how you go about that. You might need to go onto the surface in order to confirm it. That might be the nature of the data.
Right.
But obviously, if possible, yes, keep your distance. Try not to contaminate it. Try not to disturb it until you know more about it. Really, obviously, the sort of common sense. Really, don't poke it with a stick until you know a bit more about it. Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of applies for the sort of non-intelligent bacterial life or whatever we might find. But when it comes to sentient beings, it's quite a different story. So I guess in that circumstance, you would the data you'd find that suggests that their life would be very different, a bit more obvious. You'd think that it's obviously easier to notice sentient life than a microbe on a planet.
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably be more concrete. That we're sure this is alien life. It moves around. It's you can tell, and then I would expect that if it was at least as intelligent as us, or of a similar intelligence or higher, that it would quite quickly sort of learn that we're watching them, or that we've sent something to them. They would find the probe. They would find some kind of evidence of our involvement, and then I think very quickly there would be some kind of contact, whether it's on purpose or not. So whether it's the sort of cartoon example of them picking up the probe, looking into the camera, and sort of waving, or understanding that there's someone else, there's some other beings watching. In the same way that if we found a probe on the ground and we knew no one on Earth had designed it, we'd be sort of freaked out, and we know, hang on, there's someone else that sent this. So I think it's very hard to avoid contact, and in those circumstances, when the one I sort of just laid out there, that would be a circumstance where they're not ridiculously advanced, and they wouldn't be in this sort of Star Trek scenario where they'd come and attack you or something. It would be a bit more tentative, and I don't know.
Right. Listen, Guy, you might have to carry on with this yourselves for a minute or two.
There is still a problem of time. I mean, if we are lucky and we find a suitable one in the closest possible place to us, okay, it's still more than 50 light years. So if we manage to send something which travels at a 10th of the speed of light, which is fucking amazing, and we have no idea how to do that right now, it will still take 500 years to go there. And then you got to account another 50 years for the signal to come back. And then you got to make up your mind and send something a little bit more, refined, and it's going to be still another 500 years. Well, I mean, what I mean is that by the time that we send 2 or 3 probes, that civilization might not be there anymore. I mean, it's the time is really a factor in this kind of hypothesis, and so I think we got to take into account that too. But I mean, I agree with what Elsoy and Rational said before. I think that the first step that we have to, I mean, let's keep in mind that the only probes that we have over there right now, they're only able to tell us so much, which is very little. So the first thing we have to do is to send something still really cautious that is going to tell us a little bit more. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about another 500 years at least, if not more. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I mean, we got plenty of time to figure things out. That's what I'm saying. It's not something that we have to decide right now. Like, there's someone knocking at the door. Okay, what the fuck do I do? Do I go there? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know actually what's heartened me greatly here is that the others have hit on something that bothered me, and that was contamination. And the reason is because I was dozing on the couch and I had autoplay on YouTube, and came across a documentary about the preparation that they had to do for the Mars rovers in trying to make sure that they were completely decontaminated before they were sent.
Yeah.
And I also remembered there was an experiment they did. They sent a strain of cyanobacterium on the outside of something or other that was going into orbit and then coming back 18 months later. And the blinking bacteria were still alive when they came back to Earth.
Well, there's something else as well. When that was being mentioned, the contamination thing, I remembered a story by Ray Bradbury, and I had to look it up because I actually thought, I might have it, but no, I've got the Illustrated Man. It's not in that book, and it's called A Sound of Thunder, and I'll read out the synopsis for it. In the year 2055, time travel has become practical reality, and the company Time Safari Inc. offers wealthy adventurers the chance to travel back in time to hunt extinct species such as dinosaurs.
Yeah, I've read that story. It's very good.
A hunter named Eccles pays $10,000 to join a hunt party that will travel back in time to the late Jurassic era on a guided safari to kill the Tyrannosaurus Rex. As the party waits to depart, they discuss the recent presidential elections in which an apparently fascist candidate, Dasher, has been defeated by a more moderate Keith, to the relief of many concerned. When the party arrives in the past, Travis, the hunting guide, and Leperance, Travis's assistant, warn Eccles and the two other huntings, Billings and Kramer, about the necessity of minimizing the events that they change before they go back. Since tiny alterations to distant time could snowball into catastrophic changes in history. Travis explains that the hunters are obliged to stay on a levitating path to avoid disrupting the environment, that any deviation will be punished by hefty fines, and that prior to the hunt, Time Safari scouts have been sent back in time to select and tag their prey, which would have died within minutes anyway, and those and whose death had been calculated to have minimal impact in the future. Although Eccles is initially excited about the hunt, when the monstrous Tyrannosaur approaches, he loses his nerve. Travis tells him he cannot leave, but Eccles panics, steps off the path, and runs into the forest. Eccles hears shots, and on his return he sees that the two guides have killed the dinosaur. And shortly afterwards, the falling tree that would have killed the Tyrannosaurus Rex has landed on top of it. Realizing that Eccles has walked off to the path, Travis threatens to leave him in the past unless he removes the bullets from the dinosaur's body, as they cannot be left behind. Eccles obeys, but Travis remains furious, threatening on the return to shoot him. Upon returning to 2055, Eccles noticed some subtle changes. English words are now spelled and spoken strangely. People behave differently, and Eccles discovers that Dasher has won the election instead of Keith. Looking at the mud on his boots, Eccles finds a crushed butterfly, whose death apparently set in motion a series of subtle changes that have affected the nature and an alternative present to which the safari has returned. He frantically pleads with Travis to take him back to the past to undo the damage, but Travis has previously explained that the time machine cannot return to any point at the time that's already been visited, so as to prevent any paradoxes. Travis raises his guns, and there's a sound of thunder.
I remember reading that. It was very, very good.
I read it at school.
Yeah, and it's the butterfly effect.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, if you watch Star Trek, they have a similar kind of idea, not on the microbes or, you know, a crushed butterfly sense, but if, you know, you could effectively change the way a planet generates, it goes. Literally, that one moment can have that massive change. I mean, you know, imagine if, I don't know, aliens had come down to Moses, if Moses was a real person, you know, and the information changes the reality completely, you know, that kind of thing. So, you know, all sorts of, you know, huge things could change thanks to small ideas. Where's that being screwed? Oh, it's household.
And that, I suppose, that means that when you consider any action that we would take with this alien planet, obviously you'd have to be very, very careful. And that's why in my initial post, I mentioned, and I didn't know any other way to describe it other than a modified prime directive.
Yeah.
Now, so basically we're going to happily orbit, but we're not going to land. We don't want to disrupt this planet and its ecosystem. Okay?
It depends on the form of life, I suppose. You know, what have we found?
Yeah, and if we're just talking about, you know, we're not talking about intelligent beings that have, you know, invented flight and all the rest of it. We've not got them. So we are just looking at the best, the equivalent of the Serengeti.
Well, if we have a moral problem, it doesn't matter what kind of life we meet. I mean, if the moral problem is contamination, it doesn't matter. Actually, the less developed it is, the more dangerous it is.
Yes.
So, but I mean, I don't see that as something that. I mean, we can think about it, but just by the fact of sending probes over there, we are running that risk because everything can happen, you know, unless we have exact data, which we won't at the beginning of how thick the atmosphere is, so that we can put in an orbit which is completely outside the atmosphere. If we just get into the atmosphere, we will contaminate the planet. If something goes wrong and the probe falls on the planet, we will fuck up the planet anyway. So there are going to be things that we can only try. But if we have a serious moral problem, we probably shouldn't send probes. You know?
Right. Okay.
Or the probes should be so far away that they won't be really. Well, I won't say useful because they will be useful, but the answers that they will give, they will be not probably as satisfactory as we would like to.
Well, the most important thing was that any probes that were sent down would have to be absolutely contaminant free. You know, which
we can't say. I mean, it is impossible for us to say until we know what kind of planet that we're going to face.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, the whole War of the Worlds kind of idea in reverse, where, you know, all we have to do is send down, you know, any probe that's got any bacteria from our planet, for which the creatures, you know, primitive creatures on that planet, or even microbes for that matter,
it's not just
are not able to you know, resist. They don't have a biological resistance to.
It is not just bacteria. It's just the fact of landing a probe, which is going to fuck up the planet.
Yeah, you know? Somebody's pointed out that the technology itself would count as contamination.
Yeah, right. I mean, and God forbid what kind of planet that we find. If we find an ammonia-based life form, I mean, a life form which uses ammonia instead of water, I mean, how can you bloody put something over there? The temperature will dissolve the metals of the probe anyway. There's going to be, you know, so many problems that we'd rather not do that. A probe of that magnitude, we got to implement fail-safe mechanism. They can't rely only on solar panels because it will not work. So we'll have to put a nuclear cell in there. And what the fuck do you do with that one? You can't toss it because the communication would not work. So I mean, if our problem is not to fuck up with the planet, we can't land on the planet.
Yeah. Now I'm going to throw in the first.
Or we just say, you know what, fuck it, we're going to land anyway. Which is, I mean, it's something that we can do, but it's going to make life way easier.
Now I'm going to throw in a little bit, slightly change this, and I'm going to tell you that the planet that we've come across, it's got a decent surface temperature, so Earth life forms would be able to survive in it, and it's also got a breathable atmosphere, and gravity is not that different. Okay. And then after you've spoken to Cliff Jumper and you've spoken to Hal Sawyer, you've all had your discussion, and you seem to all have decided that the most you would do is send some probes that would orbit the planet, but you wouldn't land. But then Hal Sawyer, who's been busy messing around with a great big space telescope, comes screaming in the door. And he says to you, "Hey guys, I got some bad news. There's something heading our way. And based on the trajectory that we've calculated, it's going to hit us. And it's big."
What is the something?
Well, at this point, Hal Sawyer's not sure.
It's a potential planetary annihilation event.
You're not sure yet because you don't know your size yet. You just know.
Well, I like to over dramat or cause drama just for the hell of it. So.
Oh, don't worry, that's
gonna kill all of us.
That's coming. So you have got this wake-up call that there is something coming in, okay? And Hal Sawyer has told you he's not quite sure of the size yet. It's going to take him a wee bit longer to actually get proper measurements and to get a better calculation on its orbital path, but it looks like it's going to make a direct hit. And he goes away and he comes back a few weeks later and he says, "Okay guys, it's the size of Manhattan and it's going to break up and the bits are going to land in the Pacific."
Are we talking about Sudden Impact? I believe that's the movie.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
This is we know it's going to break up, okay? And it's going to land in the Pacific.
Is J.D. Kane president? I mean,
so we know that the Pacific Rim is going to suffer terribly from this, and obviously our planet is going to be altered. So it's brought home to you the possibilities that if something similar happens in the future, you could have major problems. Do you still make the same decisions with regard to the probes that you're sending to this wee planet?
If I may chime in first, this is actually one of the reasons why I think we not only should, but we have an actual obligation to be a multiplanetary species. Yeah. Which is why I think we not only should, but we have to colonize places like Mars, places like Jupiter, or Jupiter. I meant Europa.
Yeah.
Because we have an obligation to the species. Because as far as we know, right? 100% of species that doesn't have a space program dies out.
Uh-huh.
So we need to be a multiplanetary species as a simple, just a matter of fact for survival, because it's not an if, it's a when any given planet just gets smacked so hard you get a concussion you don't wake up from. So the one I was actually going to ask before you said this, what would be the purpose of the mission, right? So are we doing missions simply for the hell of it, saying, so we now have the technology to send stuff to figure out if there's life forms or that we can live on certain types of planets within, say, a single or maybe 2 or 3 generational lifespans? Or are we doing it for exploration, or are we doing it for gain? Because there's different drives behind it, right? So in Star Trek, the drive is essentially that we can, and it benefits everyone if we do it. Now, seeing as we are, at least in this reality, we are, for the most part, driven by systems similar to, if not directly related to, capitalism pretty much universally across the board. I would assume that the initial drive would be for strict gain.
Yeah.
Now, would viably in a moral sense? Don't really know. Don't really care. Does it bring with it stuff that we can objectively gain from, no matter what? Yes. Much like war is a necessary evil for technological advancement, at least right now it seems to be. I would say that something that has you can even call it pure greed behind it as motive will bring with it enough positives that I can be fine with it, on the contention that we don't intentionally disrupt stuff. So like if we find somewhere that we can clearly see that, so these are sentient beings that we can relate to, at that point I think it becomes a moral dilemma instead of just thing to do. But if it's a system where it's almost the same thing as housing pets, right? So we don't necessarily mind locking up pets or cattle, right? Farm animals in general, because we need them, / we don't necessarily think they have the same capabilities of us as far as cognitive abilities goes. So it's quote unquote acceptable to treat them differently than ourselves. A system where you can almost think of the planet as a farm or a fresh piece of land for settlement, as if let's say when we discovered different continents here on Earth, it wasn't inhabited by other parts of the homos, right? If we just found a piece of land that had essentially just cats, dogs, cows, and sheep, we wouldn't think twice about doing whatever we wanted with the land. And I think the same goes for planets. But I think we should restrict ourselves morally if we find some place that has something we can recognize as relatively high functioning sentience.
Yeah.
But
well, you're right.
should it be on the cost of our own survival? At that point I would say we come first.
Right. Now, at the moment we're
Well,
not worried, we're not concerned about survival yet.
I mean, what you said at the beginning was basically the question I asked, before. Why should we go there? The thing is that in the best case scenario, okay, if we do things really fast, really quick, like we find a planet with suitable, fuck the probes, fuck everything. We build a big ass spaceship with all the mining equipment, and all the people. We send it over there. Okay, so best case scenario, we will start receiving stuff from that planet in about 1,200 years. Okay. I think exactly for what Alsoy said and what I said before, it is way more convenient for us, to start mining the moon, going to Mars, mining the asteroids. I mean, those are going to have a return of investment, if you will, which is way quicker, and at least we know what we can get from those kind of resources. Okay, so the exploitation of the planet, it's something that we can do, but it is not something that we can bet on. It's like, if you have some money, you decide, yeah, I'm gonna put everything in a fund, which eventually it might give me some money back in something like 50 years, or I put it in a fund which is gonna give me a reasonable amount of interest in 2 years. It's a no-brainer for nobody, As for the question you asked, you said before, Fiona, I don't think that the planet, the newfound planet, comes into the equation at all. I mean, right now we don't have the resources, to ship people build a spaceship capable of shipping people over there and send them over there, to save the species. That's something we can't do. I mean, this is not even an option. I think the best option is to try to send as many missiles towards, the object and hope to break it before it reaches, the Earth. So that's not really. I don't see that as a game changer, or something which can make up your mind. Oh yeah, we should send in colonies over there. You can't do that anywhere. Anyway.
Yeah, colonization is something that you can only do as a last resort if it's already set in motion.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's not something that we even if we make up our mind this evening, okay, and we invest all the resources in the world, which will never happen, even if the world is going to be destroyed, we will never be able to do that. It's going to take so much time that by the time we manage to do that, whatever is going to impact us has already strike. So,
well, not necessarily. So we basically have to try and mitigate the damage that's going to be done by this thing the size of Manhattan that was coming in. That it was breaking up, though we knew it was breaking up. And then Hal Soy comes to you a little while later, and he says there's another ring coming. In fact, there seem to be an awful lot. There's a large number. They're all going to miss us, but there is one, maybe two, that are going to impact. They're not very big.
That almost sounds like an attack, doesn't it?
Sorry?
Yeah.
That almost sounds like an attack now.
It's gone from Deep Impact to Independence Day.
Yeah.
No, not yet. We're not going there. So Hal Soy has noticed that there's all this stuff, and there's quite a lot of it. There's something he thinks. He comes to the conclusion that these are all Kuiper Belt objects that have somehow been perturbed. Something's perturbed them. And it's altered their orbits a little bitty.
Mm-hmm.
And he has no idea what it is yet. But it's something nasty. And all he can tell you is that it is something that, well, quite far away, obviously has what we could describe as a very deep gravitational well. Okay? And that's all the information he has at the moment.
It's G-Man, isn't it? A gravitational well. He's so dense.
So let me get this straight. Let's see if I understood. There is a plethora of rocks coming towards the Earth.
Yeah, they're not all going to hit. There's going to be a lot of near misses, but the point is that this is out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Something's perturbed. Something is perturbed.
Something with a deep gravity well is
Perturbing somehow say the asteroid belt, okay?
Yeah.
And you've not been able to identify it yet, but you know there's something, okay? Okay. So you've got to go and you have to advise Rational Mind and Cliffjumper and Fabio about this. So advise them.
Oh, right now, I mean, if it happens tomorrow, the only sensible suggestion I can say is that go outside, buy a Ferrari, and you're gonna pay them in 10 years, because you won't be there to pay that and have some fun, because there's literally nothing you can do but die.
Yeah, but remember, most of these things are going to miss us.
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, if enough of them reach the Earth, we're gonna die anyway. And I mean, we probably don't have the resources right now, the capability to intercept one. Okay, so if it's two, we're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, they're smaller than the initial ones.
Yeah, and
Right?
again,
There's something else going on here. There's something else going on.
The thing is that regardless of what's going on, there is nothing we can do about that.
Right.
Okay?
But would that change any of your reasoning towards this little planet?
I see.
It was changing the reasoning towards what I'm going to do tomorrow. I will not go to work tomorrow.
Well, no, yeah, there is that. But I mean, you're not going to die tomorrow. But there's something going on. You don't know what it is yet. So, Halsoy, you have to advise them what you think is going on.
Oh.
And bearing in mind how far they've got with this little planet, do you change any of your advice that you give them about this little planet?
Well, again, a mass evacuation is only an option if we already have a system for that set in place. So again, it depends. Further calculation on the trajectory is needed, because if we're talking something that might take out parts of a continent, I'm sorry to say it, but tough shit, people. Yeah. You get hit. If it's something that wipes entire continents, as in plural, there's still nothing you can do about it, but at least you can try and get quote unquote important people away from where it gets hit. And when I say important, I mean stuff like medical personnel and teachers, people with high levels of education. Fuck people in offices so they can go and die in a great ball of fire for all I care. But
goodness gracious.
People with actual value in society. Not that politicians are worthless, but I would rather have a good doctor than someone that can hold a good speech.
Or a carpenter for that, instead of an IT consultant. Yeah, fuck that.
Yes.
So you would be
the fact.
So I mean, you would be basically saying, move the important people away from the areas of likely impact, or areas affected by impact.
If it's feasible, hold on a second. Yeah. If it is feasible, because it might be that the impact doesn't destroy, most of the planet, but because of where it lands, you're gonna face a nuclear winter where nothing can survive anyway. So even that, sending away some people will be only telling them, okay, you can die in 2 years when it hits, or you will die in 30 years in, scavenging for food which is not there and die anyway. So,
but remember, these ones that he's only just discovered, they're not big ones. So we are not talking about.
So we're talking essentially city killers or state killers in relation to the US.
We're talking these more recent ones are actually quite small.
Oh, are we talking about the kind of tsunami that destroyed chunks of Japan a few years ago?
Well, it would depend where it landed, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But they're not huge. These aren't huge ones.
So at that point, so if we're talking something that might or might not take out a city or three, on the grand scheme of things, it's essentially not a big deal until, or you need to set in motion crisis plans, right? So evacuate the people you can and have stuff ready to deal with the commotion once it's over. However, that wouldn't be my main focus at that point. My main focus at that point would be figuring out what the actual fuck caused this, because you mentioned it's something with a deep gravity well. Now,
Yeah.
because if it could fling one or two small, and it has a gravity well that will make us go like, what the actual fuck? Like, is it a wandering brown dwarf? Is it something that's actually constructed? Where the hell did it come from? Can we trace where it's come from? Can we see any wobble in any of the planets that shouldn't have been? Can we trace any alterations in orbits? Has it actually entered the solar system on our plane? Has it come from quote unquote above or below the plane? Where does it actually come from? What is it, and how can we detect it? Because that would be the primary worry, at least for me at that point, simply because if it can fling small rocks, it can also fling big rocks.
Yeah, and the thing is, it can't be very close to us because you've not found it yet. You've not been able to find anything. So you're now busy with your telescope, and you're hunting with your Hubble Space Telescope, or if your James Webb was up or whatever.
At that point, I would use stuff like X-ray or infrared.
You're into all of this, and you are looking to try and find something that is perturbing the motion of things way out in space. Okay, you're looking for something that wasn't there before. Okay. But as the person on the other end of the telescope, what are you advising King of the World Fabio to do at this point?
Yeah.
I'm asking Housewife what you advise.
I was sure I heard Fabio.
No. She asked you, what do you tell me? But I think it depends on what he finds.
Yeah. So if I can't find anything directly, but I can find indirect evidence of it, the same way we can find indirect evidence of stuff like dark matter or black holes, I would have to assume at that point that it's not a natural phenomenon, and it's something that's actually constructed and is intentionally hiding itself. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as saying, "Holy shit, ET," right? But I would lean more towards that than just some random, like, maybe just a couple of stones got together and made a chunk of mass, because that would be detectable. We have systems in place to trace planet killers or near planet killers local in our solar system. Like we're tracking actively thousands of them. So something like that we would find. So at that point, I would conclude. I would have to conclude that the most likely scenario is something that is actively concealing itself in some fashion.
Right. So there's rationals away. So you're hunting about, and you start to find something, and you find perturbations.
But okay, listen. This is the thing. Okay, if there is something which is flinging asteroids towards the Earth, okay, and sending, and keep in mind when we talk about the asteroid belt, it's not the Star Wars asteroid belt.
I know.
Okay, they're very far from each other. It's not something Okay. So if there is something alien which wants to destroy us by shooting rocks at the Earth, and is shooting rocks which are not able to destroy the Earth, I mean, the first thing we have to conclude is that we either found the most incompetent alien conquerors in the fucking universe, or it's not a sentient being. That just, it's just something which happened. And if something happened, how so will be able to find it?
Yeah, well, he's still looking.
The thing is, according to your scenario, it can't be alien, unless we found retarded aliens, which it might be. Because, you take all the time to go over there and you want to destroy the planet. I mean, you need a big rock, okay?
Well, not necessarily. As in, okay, so I'm going to pull some inspiration from Babylon 5 here for a second and reference the Centauri. Because they were a slave-keeping race for the vast majority of their time, right? And you remember the last war they had, or it wasn't even a war; it was a slaughter, where they what was the race? Jakar was the ambassador for them. What was the race?
Yeah. Oh shit. Okay, that race I can't remember for the sake of me right now.
Yeah, I'm just googling it real quick because
just keep in mind that Fiona has made me the king of the world, and I'm drinking wine and I'm under painkillers. So the first choice you made is actually fucked up. I mean, we are fucked anyway. But yeah.
No, so it was the Narns. So in the last Great Rebellion, where the Narns essentially declared war on the Centauri, even after they technically had gotten their freedom, but they were sick and tired of the Centauris, right? So they essentially declared war on them. But Narns are technologically vastly inferior. And the way Centauri took over the capital planet of the Narn was using mass drives. So instead of using one giant hurling planet killer, they would essentially use a shitload of city killers, or smaller than city killers, because it's not a directed energy weapon, so you don't run any risk of blowing up your own ship because of overload or system failures. So, and by doing this, you can strategically aim and use ammunition that's freely available in pretty much any given solar system to completely cripple a planet and its let's call it a defensive force living on it, right? Because as non-advanced as we might be, we still have an active defensive force in the various militaries around the globe, including stuff like nuclear weapons, which I don't really care how technologically advanced you are. Fusion and like hydrogen weapons and nuclear weapons, they can do damage to anything simply because of their nature. So we would have some form of fighting back. Would it be effective? Probably not. But it's still less of a risk for them to strategically aim stuff at us and completely cripple us without actually ruining the planet in the process.
Yeah, but I agree. But the scenario, and that I agree. That would be a different scenario from the one Fiona said, because she said, some of them are gonna miss. Now, even if you want to cripple the planet, some of them might miss, but not in a consistent number. You will be saying, I mean, if 100 of those are coming at you and 5 of them are missing, you don't say some of them are missing. You say a shit ton is gonna hit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can see a scenario, and I'm familiar with that, but it will be different, and we will be back to square one. It depends. Is it going to destroy us? Because if it's going to destroy us, as I said, fuck it. Live your life and enjoy it while it lasts. If it doesn't, I mean, this is a different problem. But again, the thing is that we scan quite a lot of asteroids right now. So if some of them moves, depending on the way they move, we might be able to, to ascertain if it has moved, for fuck reasons, or if they're actually aimed at you.
Yes.
It's the same thing as when you, I don't know if it happens, where you guys live, but around here when you get married, they throw rice at you. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when they throw rice at you, they're not actually throwing rice at you. They're throwing rice in the air, and rice falls.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can figure out the pattern, which is way different if someone takes, like a weapon, puts like a shotgun with rice and shoots you rice at you. It's still rice, but you can see that the pattern is quite different.
Yes.
Right, so, sorry. So, Hal Soy has been away at his telescope again, and
I love
he's
my
been
telescopes, apparently.
yeah. So you've been away, you've been looking, you've been following. There's telescopes all over the world now pointing in the general direction, and you realise that none of these are actually apparently being aimed at Earth. It's to do with perturbations in their orbit, and that the vast majority are missing. And so you're looking further out. You're looking way further out.
Nibiru.
And sorry?
Nibiru.
Sorry, go ahead.
So you're looking way out, and you start to see something. And you start to see gravitational effects way out. And you finally manage to get eyes on this thing, on something, and it's not very big.
No. Hold on a second. If you see gravitational effects, it's got to be big.
No, it's not that. It's not very big. It's not a massive, great big thing.
Well, it has to be as big as the moon.
Give me a minute.
Yeah.
And
It's
having
Nibiru, for fuck's sake. Yeah, got it.
So you've looked at this thing, and it's definitely moving, and it's coming towards us. And given all the data that you collect on this thing, and all the other various observatories have collected on this thing, you've all come to the decision that it's a neutron star.
Oh,
well, we're fucked.
Yeah, we're fucked. We are back to square one.
Right, but
no, there is no but with a neutron.
Wait, there is a but here. There is a but. But given all your various calculations, you think that it's going to take at least 100 years
until the impact is going to be enough to start ripping us apart.
Until it comes within a close enough range to our solar system to actually start destroying planets. Okay? So you've got 100 years. So you're now going to have to start thinking about the next generation and the generation after that, king of the world. So you've now got a time frame. Okay? And I mean, obviously things are going to deteriorate within that 100-year period. There'll be all sorts of weird effects, but not completely planet destroying. So you know what sort of length of time you've got. And it's coming in a direction opposite to where the wee planet is that you think you might have detected life on.
Well, the good news is that Europeans and Eastern and whatever, America won't survive.
Yeah.
Because America's full of retards who think that the universe is only 6,000 years old and that this is going to be the, God raining the fire or whatever, So,
Yes.
Yeah, I'm exaggerating. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's basically like we need to evacuate and head off there.
Yeah,
and
so
to be honest,
you've got with that 100 years, and having to think about, obviously, anything that you do is going to have to be carried on by the next generation. And Halsoy, by the way, you're convinced this is a neutron star, okay? You're all convinced. You are the spokesperson of the astronomical community. Okay, you're king of astronomy, and it's a neutron star. So you have to advise Fabio on this one, or advise Cliffjumper on this one. Given the time span I've given you, your 100 years, and given that you know that the little planet that had a reasonable temperature, a decent atmosphere and a decent gravity is in the opposite direction of the neutron star. Okay? It wouldn't be affected, but I mean, remember, it's way outside our solar system. That's why I picked a planet outside our solar system at the beginning of this. So, Halsoy, go and advise the king of the world.
Up and fuck off. There's really no other option. It's
my one was these matters that we had about contaminating this nice little planet that we found out there. Don't care, because the survival of our species is more important than that.
Yes.
And we need to build as many ships, generational ships, just to get there as we can, including go through our system and basically taste, I mean, if we can get animals or whatever, ironically, build an ark of all things. So we need to have, seeds and, all those sorts of things to effectively be able to replicate our system on another one. And of course, it'll always be a transitional one. It'll be a sort of bit of theirs and a bit of ours, because we're going to probably end up, having to create wheat fields on an alien planet that may not have the same nutrients in the ground. So you're going to end up with something a little bit different.
We essentially need to Battlestar Galactica the shit out of it.
It is, yeah.
So what are you going to advise Fabio to do? What are you going to advise the king of the world to do?
Martial law.
Yeah, you unify the nations, even through military force if you have to, because we need to get shit done.
Yeah.
I don't think the time is going to be enough. You said 100 years is not going to be enough.
Depends.
The funny thing about
keep in mind the Apollo program was done really, really quickly because they had essentially unlimited funding, which wasn't even unlimited.
Okay, yeah. I found someone which is apparently as mental as Fiona. Okay, so here are some quick calculations. Okay, this guy wants to know how much it's going to take to build a generation ship, like something which is going to carry 250,000 persons, okay, to another star system. So besides the fact that we have no idea what kind of engines we're going to use, this is the calculation that the guy makes. He starts looking at cruise ships, okay? So the Royal Caribbean's Oasis of the Seas, it's a cruise liner. It carries 6,000 passengers, and the displacement is about 100,000 tons, which is approximately 16.6 tons per person. Okay, let's say we save about 35% because we use light material, whatever the hell. So we arrive at 10 tons per person, 10.8 tons per person. So if we want to send 250,000 humans, we got to send in the cosmos, we need to build a ship which weighs 2,708,333 tons.
Well, the good news is
now oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, the good news is that we build the ship in space.
No,
and
no,
gravity-
no. We can't build ship in
No,
space.
you build sections on Earth and
Yeah,
assemble
that's
them.
right.
And we got to lift them, okay?
Yeah, that's
Now,
right. We get them up there and we assemble it.
Yeah, fantastic. So the Falcon 9 Heavy can lift a payload of 53 tons per launch. So, not considering things which might happen in the future, which I have no idea, at that rate, we will require 51,000 launches just on materials. And then we have other launches to carry construction workers, stuff like that. So at one launch per day one launch per day. So we start today. It's going to take 140 years to build it.
Well, so it depends. How far away is this object?
Oh, she said 100 years. I'm basing it, that's why I said there is not enough time.
So, 100 years, then it's essentially inside the Oort cloud already.
Yeah. So even if we account for technology advances or whatever the hell, I'm being really generous, and I'll say, okay, let's cut everything by 20%, but 140 years is not going to be enough anyway. So I think that, Halsey will tell me to fuck it, get on board. The problem is I will not have anything to get on board on. So, yeah.
Yeah, at that point, you have to start considering you essentially need to set up a triage system. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and then you have force. You also have color coding, like the force would be black, and it depends on what kind of triage system you have, right? But where 1s will go, 2 will go if there's room, 3s are essentially just okay. So maybe we can duct tape you on the outside, and 4s are just you're not going. I would be a 4. So
duct tape, they will duct tape you to the outside.
So you need to set up a system where okay.
That hit the spot.
Sorry, just keep going while I oh God.
Okay, so
the good news is we get you off with WD-40.
Yes. But you'd essentially need to set up a system where you are essential personnel. We need you for our species survival, and essentially just throw as many on board of a mission as you can fit. The problem, of course, is you need to plan this mission, which means you technically have a set frame size, or should have a set frame size to begin with. So once it's set in motion, there's probably not enough leeway to expand it or alter it in any way. And then it becomes a logistical nightmare because you need every single nation in on it. Because you need to extract the raw resources, you need to have the manufacturing facilities, then you need to establish the launch capabilities, and you need to do many launches a day, which means you need to produce a shitload of material every single day, and pretty much all of this needs to be done as a non-profit project.
Yeah, and this is the point. I mean, money becomes no object because this is a life and death situation. Well, you don't quibble about a few pounds and dollars and things like that. You just basically say, right, we need to leave. Yeah, effectively, if it wasn't for the last minute, nothing would get done. And when people are in a rush, they take risks as well. So building bigger rockets that can shift more stuff up quicker, that will be a priority. That will be one of the first things that gets done.
Well, I don't think it's going to work anyway with the numbers I tell you. I mean, even if I give you a 50% increase in technology, it's still going to take 70 years. That's not enough. It is not enough. The only alternative would be to build something way smaller with a crew of about, I don't know, 30 persons, 40 persons, and frozen zygotes. Now, that would be a solution, but keep in mind that so far the technical problems are still there. You will need to put a nuclear reactor. We don't know what kind of engines we're going to use. And I know Project Orion, but if you want to build something which is going to be humanity's last resort, you want to build something which is with a technology which is well established and you know it
something we
works.
know works.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You don't start putting EM drives on.
No, fuck it. You probably go with Steam, okay?
Yeah.
Stuff which work. Yeah, I mean,
essentially, right? Yeah.
Deep Ashtray has mentioned something of interesting, which was what are all these launches going to do to the atmosphere? Well, that doesn't really matter. We're not going to need it for much longer.
Yeah, and it would take too much time to build a space elevator to justify the time of it.
Yeah.
And the other one was maybe build a space elevator.
And still, we have problems we don't know how to solve. You probably need a nuclear reactor on those ships, and those are bitches because you need to dump the heat somewhere, and space is not a very good conductor of heat.
It's really shitty.
It's very shitty. That might be the understatement of the century. It is really shitty. Okay, so it will probably take us about, I don't know, but 30 years to figure out things and then 70 years to build stuff. And we can't do that. I mean, there is not enough time. Even with a smaller ship, I don't think there's going to be enough time.
No, I think it's one of those scenarios where the best possible scenario is to just barely fail.
Yeah, I know. I've got a plan. I have a plan. I think it's a foolproof plan. I think we should get G-Man to pray to God.
No, that's bullshit.
Answered prayer works, apparently.
No, I'm sorry, that's bullshit. We have a way better alternative. We got a fucking Space Marine. We sent Van Elton over there.
Well, since he's a time traveler, he could just travel back in time 50 years and warn us.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, that'll do.
So,
it's.
I'm not going to go with the answer prayer argument because I don't think anybody lobbing a safe at us is going to help at this point.
Yeah.
We've got enough problems as it is.
Got to pray for the right thing, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I looked at just looking at Project Orion, and apparently you could manage to get to speeds of 3.3%, the speed of light.
Yeah, good fucking luck with that.
Which is really
I was thinking that
fast.
myself. But the documents that I had watched,
And also, I'm sorry, Fiona, and also, you don't want to use Project Orion. You don't.
uh-huh.
I mean, think about you. Let's say that you have
I'm
to.
duct tape on the outside. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, let's say that you have to, because you have to sail from Scotland to Norway. Okay. You want the most solid, well-built ship which has ever existed, and you don't care if the technology is from 50 years before. You don't want the newest ship out of the dock with all the electronics which have never been to sea and probably will sputter and die 50 meters from the coast. You want something which is going to carry you there.
I just had this real imagination for a moment of basically a big massive rocket attached to the planet with Acme written on it.
Now, so keep in mind also when it comes to travel in space, it's all about inertia, right? So it's not like you need an engine that can run all the time. but you need an engine that that will decelerate you in 100 years when you get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Now,
remember, your 100-year window is the length of time before there starts to be really horrendous effects. So that's your window for dealing with it. Remember that.
Yeah, I mean, the trip is probably going to take you like 900 years. So you got 440 years of braking, basically.
I'm sorry that I just need to say I really need to go to bed. I'm getting up for work in like 4 hours. So.
Oh dear.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah,
it's
It's been a blast. Yeah.
It's interesting to think about it. That originally we were being all ethical and all the rest of it about this other planet. But then when it came to, but ours is going to fall to bits, ethics out the window.
Yeah.
It's survival. And that, I think that's something that I wanted this hangout to highlight, that often the decisions that you make are very dependent on the circumstances around you at the time. That you can make different decisions in different circumstances, which you would say were just as ethical.
Well, I think it's quite natural, I mean, all of us will. We will never kill each other, but if our family depended on me killing you and Cliff, I'll be sorry, but you're dead, guys. So.
Yeah.
I know. Keep in mind, I wouldn't say that I'm not sorry, but you're fucking history. Because I mean, we all work that way. I don't think you can't work any other way.
Love you too, Fabio.
Yeah. At least I'll be sorry. You'll probably do it laughing, like a madman. So
it is a difficult one to consider. I mean, I think if I was king of the world, then in the circumstances, my instinct would be to say, right, okay, you've got to bring everybody in the world together on this. Everybody's got to work together on this. All the nations.
And the funny thing about it is, it's probably about the only thing we could actually agree on.
Well, I don't completely agree. I mean, in the scenario that we described, where we have no way out, I think it would be irresponsible and criminal to tell everybody, we can make it. Let's all get together and build something, knowing that it will be for nothing.
Well.
I think at least trying. I mean,
if you want to try, it's up to you. But it would be criminal for me to tell you, oh, well, there is a chance we can do that. When you know that there is absolutely no chance at all.
Well, I mean, given a choice between slim and none, I'll take slim any day.
And remember, though, that even if, let's just say, you did actually manage to get some sort of large craft built in orbit, and you managed to load up everything that you would need. Because remember, you would need almost like genetic libraries of seeds and all the rest of it. You need all that sort of stuff. But imagine, even if you were able to do all of that, and you had the propulsion to do it, those that you loaded onto the vessel wouldn't be the ones stepping off at the other end. So those that would be putting in all of the work on this wouldn't be the ones getting to the new place.
You're still. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're still. You've got. It's 100 years you've got. So your life is going to be unaffected. It's the generations coming after you that are affected. You're not affected. So it's not a case of you have a slim chance or no chance, because you're not affected by it.
No. Okay. If
It's just something else to think about.
no, but again, if we go by that scenario, okay, there is no way we can do that. It's not me or my kids. There is no way that it can be done in 100 years. So if there is no way that can be done in 100 years, I think it would be irresponsible to, you know, to raise the spirits and say, yeah, let's do that, when you know that it is not possible. It is the same thing when that people do. I mean, if you have a really bad disease, a terminal disease, there is people which is going to tell you, oh yeah, if you do that, you're gonna feel better and your cancer will go away. And we all despise those persons because we know it's not true. They're giving false hopes. It would be way better for the person which is healed to make up his mind and decide to live the last years of his life as they want. So that's why I would say it would be criminal to do that.
Yeah, I understand that. But I wonder if not trying at all. I mean, I think you would be able to explain it in such a way that this may not work, but it's the only hope we have.
If you one thing like that, the only way you can succeed is that if you are positive that it's going to work. Because if it's not, you will find person that would say, and rightly so, I would say, why should I do that? Fuck it. You know, I'm gonna shoot in my head anyway. So if there is a real possibility that it might work, that's a different aspect. But in the scenario that we painted, the real possibility is that it will not work.
You see, I look at how far we've come in the last 100 years, and that was without a threat dangling over our heads. What could we manage in 100 years with that threat hanging over our heads?
Well, the expansion of technology for World War I and World War II, you know, was huge in a very short amount of time because there was a threat hanging over people's heads. Yeah,
so I wonder if that would make a difference as well.
I think those kind of crazy ideas that won't get any funding suddenly end up with funding on the off chance it might work.
Which will be a waste of resources. There is a difference between what happened during the wars. We are talking about engineering advances, technology advances. What we need in order for that to work, there are leaps in new things which they haven't been discovered. I mean, it's not that we have to refine some engineers that we have, because if we refine the Falcon 9 Heavy, it will not work anyway. So we'll have to come up with something completely new which doesn't exist. And I mean, you know better than me that it's not that you build a new rocket and you just keep sending it in the sky, because chances are that the first 5 or 10 they're not going to work. Okay, it's not a refinement of technology. We will need something new. Think about I mean, it is completely unrelated, but think about, you know, electric cars. We have increased the mileage between the charges and all that stuff. They're still going nowhere because the technology of the battery is still not enough. Okay, and it's not enough. I mean, they managed to squeeze them to make them smaller, but there are some problems which are still there. You need rare materials to build them. Disposing them is a bitch. So we just said, okay, yeah, we focus on that, but not on the main problem. If we want to go in that way, we have to solve all the problems all together at once, which it's not a technology problem.
Right, 'cause one of the other suggestions for efficient propulsion is an antimatter drive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, listen. If you want to find something fancy,
No.
nuclear explosions are way better than antimatter drive. I mean,
Yeah.
antimatter drive, we have no fucking idea how to deal with that.
Exactly.
And even more so, how to actually make antimatter in those numbers.
Yeah, and the problems with it. It would be. I don't think 100 years would be enough to actually work out how to get one of them working without it blowing up everything, including the launch pad. So you would be stuck with your Project Orion. That would be your only way of going.
We haven't even found dilithium crystals yet.
Well, exactly. I mean, if we could just find the dilithium crystals, would be all right.
You know, and I don't know if a lot of people may not realize what dilithium crystals are or how they work. Effectively, Star Trek lore is the idea that you got a matter reactor and an antimatter reactor. So if you watch Star Trek, it's the sort of the bits that are throbbing down and up. Okay, and what happens is you got dilithium crystals, and it's fed in at one end and fed in the other end, and it focuses it, it blends them together effectively and creates electroplasma. And then that electroplasma is then sent off to various ship systems and the engines and so on. Yeah. That's the lore behind it, LORE. But like I say, that's fantastical idea. These things don't exist.
So, Fabio, in Europe, just in your personal opinion, what you don't think that 100 years would be long enough?
No.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. How much time would you want?
At least 100, 200.
At least
at
200,
least.
right?
Yeah, at least.
You think it would take that long?
200 will be. It will be close.
Here's another question, and this is a question that I've sort of grappled with. Now, let's just accept that there is nothing we can do. It's going to happen, okay? But the only people who know about this are you as King of the World and your advisors.
Yeah.
Do you tell the public?
No.
I will only tell when the effects are can be seen by the general population.
Yeah. Because the problem is there that you will be dead by then.
Well, no, it's not that. I mean, I would not have any problem, telling them. The thing is that, there will be...
I mean, is the effects weren't going to be felt for the 100 years.
Yeah, but it would be the same even if I would be, the second king of the earth. Okay. So the main problem is that once that piece of information gets out, well, I'm expecting mass suicides and things which goes bonkers. So
well, I mean, there would be riots, there would be murders. It's like, well, what?
It'll be fucking everything. So
yeah. I mean, absolute, law and order would collapse because people don't have anything to live for. They don't even have anything for their kids to live for.
Well, see, that's the thing, because given the time span of the 100 years, they do have something to live for, because it's not going to affect them.
And that's why I wouldn't tell them. But also, I think, okay, this is just my feeling, okay? But I think that those views, the one we saw in movies and stuff like that, they're widely exaggerated.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that there will be massive riots or stuff like that. I mean, there will be. I'm not saying that they won't, but it won't be a Mad Max world, okay? Because let's face it, we all know that we're going to die, okay? So, and actually, to be fair, knowing that when I'm dying, the whole world dies, it's actually quite, exhilarating. The main problem when you die is that the sun is going to rise anyway the following day. And everybody which had a death in the family or a friend or stuff like that knows exactly what I'm talking about, is that, the world goes on. So in a way, knowing that, okay, it's like what was that, Louis the 14th, which said, après moi le déluge, after me the what is the deluge in English, the flood, after me the flood. I mean, after me there won't be nothing else. That might be quite exhilarating, saying that, what, yeah, I'm the last man. We are the last man standing, and everything is going to end. Well, everything is going to end the human race, not the planet, but still.
Yeah. I think that if things were going to go tits up, it would be those whose lives would be cut short by the event. They would be the ones thinking that, well, what's the point? But yeah, this was, you see, if you don't tell them, Fabio, then they will happily continue having kids and the families and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But if they knew about it, they may decide not to have a family.
Listen,
because their children
okay.
would be caught up in it.
Listen,
And
kids will be kids will be born anyway.
yes,
Okay.
I know that.
So,
but what I'm saying is, you become a choice.
I can understand that, if I had a kid, I would be royally pissed if someone tells me, you know what, in 20 years, the world is going to end. Because I would say, yeah, fuck it. I mean, I just had a kid, it's going to be 20. I'm going to be pissed. But on the other hand, I'm going to die too. So it's better to live 20 years or 5 years, especially if I know exactly when I'm going to die, experiencing those kind of things, rather than not. And even for the kids themselves, I mean, well, one might argue, is it better not to live or live a short amount of time? I think nobody will tell you, no, I'd rather not have lived, because you don't know. I mean, it's bonkers. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that is true. But what I'm saying is, you would be taking that choice away from people if you didn't tell them. But if you did tell them,
if
it's a blight on their lives.
If I tell them, I will condemn them to a life of despair. So
yes.
We will have persons that they will have, no future for their generations, and they will live in despair because that's what people do. On the other hand, I will only have people living in a very shitty situation and will probably decide to kill themselves for 20 years. But for 100 years, who am I to say that? I mean, who am I to tell you right now, you decide to have a kid or someone decides to have a kid in 20 years and that kid is going to die anyway for natural causes in 10 years. Okay? It's a tragedy, but that would have happened anyway. And who am I to take that responsibility? I think it's irresponsible. It's not the right thing to do. I mean, I wouldn't be the judge of that.
Yeah. Let's just say you've got, let me think. It's Apophis. Now they think on it's going to just miss us, but then on its next orbit, it may impact. Is it 2027?
Mhm.
So that would be like 10 years from now.
Mm.
Obviously, they're not certain and all the rest of it. I mean, there's a certain probability.
Yeah.
But if you knew that there was going to be, say, an asteroid impact, and it would be an extinction level event, and
Yeah.
again, you're king of the world again, right? And you know that it's going to happen in 5 years.
Mhm.
5 years might be enough to
Do you
move it.
but do you tell people, or do you not?
Of course, I tell them, but Fiona, I don't think. I mean, I don't see those as really, hard questions.
No, I know
I
that. I
mean,
know that. I'm
no, no,
not
no, no,
asking you
no, no.
as a.
What I'm saying is that okay, forget the word. Okay, let's say that the doctor comes to me and say, Fabio, you got 5 years to live.
Mhm.
This is the same thing as the world ending for me.
Yes,
Okay,
I
it is
understand that.
absolutely the same
Yeah,
thing.
I'm not asking you for it to be a hard question. What I was asking about was for the first one with a very long time span, you weren't going to tell anybody, but with the 5 year one, you would. What would your cut-off point be time-wise then
I
for
told you
tell?
when the effects are undeniable, you know.
Right, but no, what I mean is announcing it ahead of the event. Um,
Listen,
it's
when the effects are undeniable is when you want to tell the people. It's like
right.
when you have a bad disease.
Right,
Okay,
because you see,
if
with your 5 year warning for your asteroid, I mean the effects aren't even going to be noticed by anybody except
well,
astronomers.
well, yeah, but but the news will spread.
Would
That's
pick
what
up on
I'm
it, yeah,
saying. Those are the effects I'm talking about.
yeah,
I mean,
right,
Okay.
okay,
we would end up with astronomers looking at ethical choices, and one of them is going to squeal.
Well, but I
The
mean
word will get out.
this is not even something to take into consideration.
hmm
Massive conspiracies are bullshit.
yeah,
The only way to keep a secret between two persons is only if one of them is dead. So
yes,
there is no fucking and that's not as sure because the other one might tell something anyway. So that's the only way that can happen, and that will happen. So when it happens, I think that would be only responsible to say what we are fucked. Okay, and why did you tell me yesterday? Why did you want to know yesterday? Because you went to the bank and took a loan to buy a house. You're not going to pay the house anyway. I mean, it makes no difference. Literally, it makes no difference.
hmm it's an interesting thought experiment trying to work out what circumstances you would act in one way and what circumstances you would act in another.
Well, I told you what my criteria would
Yeah,
be. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know if
and
the right ones, but I think that the one which are most sensible that makes
hmm
sense.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I do agree with you. Not disagreeing at all. But I think it in a way, again, it highlights this idea of what the right decision is in your own eyes is very dependent on the circumstances. There isn't an absolute right and an absolute wrong, which
Everything, yeah.
would be right in all circumstances or wrong in all circumstances.
Everything depends on circumstances.
Yes.
Who the
Uh,
fuck doesn't work that way? I mean, we all work that way. We might have some uh, sets of criteria which say otherwise, but even those, if you want, depend on the circumstances that you choose them,
mm,
or you choose to adhere to them. So I don't know. I mean, in those cases, you can't think only by yourself. I mean, I can understand that there might be some people saying, "Oh, you should have told me way before," because fuck me reasons. I don't know. Okay, I understand that, but in general, I think that would be the sensible thing to do. I think that the majority of the persons would have chosen to be informed in that way. There is no reason to worry about in advance for something which is inevitable. And again, I must stress out, we all know that we're going to die. It is not that we stop doing things because we are going to die.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. Do you agree with this, Cliff?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I think that, trying to, you need to have a combination. You have to have an attempt to try and do something to avoid it. So it could be, sending off probes to land on this asteroid and use thrusters to try and change the trajectory, or stick on, some kind of solar cell, what do you call it? A solar sail or something like that, to try and just shift it, a couple of degrees, maybe the difference between it going to splat and not.
Would work with
But
might work with an asteroid, but not with a neutron star. But yeah.
No.
Yeah, we're talking about something that there is literally nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's the problem with a neutron star. You can't do any of those things. I mean, that's why I picked that one, because of the inevitability of it.
And by the way, you might have used, like a very big asteroid, like a big fucking ass asteroid. That would have been the same.
Yeah. So basically, I suppose, I think maybe what we've concluded is some people would want to try, regardless of how remote the possibility was, to actually get some humans away. Others might think, well, it's going to happen, let's just enjoy the time we have left.
I would want to try myself.
Yeah, I think I would want to try. I don't know how optimistic I would be about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, did you know that when you move your finger about on your coffee table, your cursor doesn't move? You have to move it on the mouse pad. Oh, I get sicker by the minute. Oh, good. I've been moving my finger on my coffee table thinking, where's my cursor?
I did the same thing yesterday. I was playing a video game, and it was 5 minutes. I'm thinking, why is this not working? And I shut the program down and restarted. And it was about 5 minutes later I realised I'd forgotten to plug the joystick in.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing I would do. Well, yeah, I think this has actually been. I've really enjoyed this conversation because it's given me a lot of food for thought. I have to say, Fabio's brought up a lot of things I hadn't thought of before. And I'm going to be agonising over this for quite some time now. Thanks, Fabio.
You're welcome.
Bloody Fabio, he's such a pessimist, isn't he?
Listen, Cliff, we could just get the
pessimist. Why do you say that? I mean, I'm not actually.
There's no fucking chance. We got no chance of making this happen. We might as well just sit here and accept it.
No, listen.
He's got a point though.
Okay. Honestly, I say it's way more pessimist someone which tries to do something when there is no fucking hope. That's really pessimist. I mean, if there is no fucking hope, learn to paint. Don't try to be or invent, the transporter room when it's not working. I mean, it's pointless. So aim for something that you can do, be happy with that, and then shit is going to happen anyway. So
yeah, but the other possibility is this: that Cliff and I and the rest of the world get together to build this ark, and we leave the Italians behind.
Bunch of pessimists.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that, Fabio. We would force you to come along if we managed to build it.
listen, between dying on the Earth, okay,
Uh,
and probably dying of radiations like in 10 years during the space voyage, I don't know which one is going to be better.
if
I-
I tell you that there are certain people that will be left behind in New Jersey, you might want to come with us.
But funnily enough, Deep Ashtray just asked a question, which I think would be an interesting topic to mention. If humanity managed to get to a new planet, should we bring along religion?
I don't
Oh,
think
no,
we
no,
could
no,
have.
no. I don't even want to start that conversation.
No, and plus, I don't think you could avoid it anyway
Mm.
because
And
you
then,
can't.
how the fuck do you avoid carrying religion? Or it's like saying, oh yeah, we can carry mathematics or philosophy? I mean, what the fuck
Yeah,
is wrong?
it would be like you would be vetting people at the thought police, and I don't think you could really do that.
It's not a problem of thought police. It's a problem, that those are ideas that at least this is my take on that. But those are ideas that sprout almost naturally, in human history. So. What the fuck you want to do? I mean, you want to lobotomize people because that would be a solution, but
I
Yeah,
think it's more that way back in a time when people had to come up with answers to questions that couldn't be answered, and that's where religion came from. Let's just hypothesize it was invented. A god doesn't exist. Okay, whatever. Is there any point in taking the people that think the universe is 6,000 years old?
well, listen, Cliff. If we're talking about stupid things that we shouldn't carry with us, I don't think religion will be my top 5. Okay, because if we're talking about really stupid things, let's not carry homicide in another planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you see,
Let's not carry, I don't know, pedophiles on another planet. Let's not carry greed on another planet. I mean,
yeah.
really?
see,
You want to go there? Really?
You would have to anyway. I mean, given that you would have limited capacity, as Hal Soy was saying, you would have to have some form of triage type thing.
Yeah, I don't want to take lunatics with me.
Yeah,
That would be a problem. But keep in mind that, I mean, by lunatics, I'm talking about lunatics, and it's cross-platform. It doesn't care if he's a communist or a Catholic or a Presbyterian or a fundamentalist. I don't care. I mean, it's imbeciles altogether that I would like not to carry with them.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that in a couple of generations, those people will be born again. That plan. So even if I don't carry, you probably have peace for first generation, probably too. But then eventually,
Yeah, but also, what you're going to have to do is you would need to be very careful with your selection, because you would need to have a decent sized gene pool. You wouldn't be wanting to take along anybody who had genetic diseases.
Yeah. Not only that. I mean, do you consider whether culture is important?
I think you'd have to have representatives of as many cultures as possible. Because remember, if this is about the human race, there is no way you would be able to say, well, this race, this culture doesn't belong. You can't do that. But you'd also want to make sure that you took along those with the necessary knowledge. You would want the engineers, you'd want the scientists, you would want the doctors, you would want psychiatrists. You would want teachers, because remember, those who get on it, those who actually board, are not the ones getting off at the other end. So
Yeah.
all of the knowledge has got to be there and given to the next generation.
Can that not be achieved? I mean, yeah, those are the primary ones, but can the culture be remembered in digital form? You know, some kind of video-y type effect.
Oh yeah, yeah. Obviously there would be all of that, but with the same token, I don't think it's just about remembering the cultures. I think they would have to be represented. I mean, you couldn't turn round to Australian Aborigines and say, "We're just taking video of you."
I'm sorry, I strongly disagree on the culture thing.
What would you do?
We got to make up our minds, okay? Either we go by culture or we go by merits or specialization, okay? The two things cannot go together. If we go by culture, if we send 100 person in space, I don't know, I'm pulling numbers out of my ass, but probably 40 of them will be Chinese, 20 will be Indians. Okay, there will probably be 4 or 5 Europeans, 7 from the US. You know, so and you will have no way to find the best ones if you go by culture. Also, the problem of the culture is that once you send 100 person in space to colonize another planet, that would be that culture.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be a completely different culture.
Yeah.
And if I have to be on that spaceship, I want to be in the spaceship with competent persons, not culturally diverse or fuck it.
But I mean, that's going to depend on the numbers that you're able to take. I mean, if you're able to
regardless of the numbers, even if you take 100,000, 60,000 would be Chinese. So.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that you would take along the representative size of the culture. If you know what I mean, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, but okay, if you don't go by size, how do you decide which culture is going to be? I mean, it would be unfair, for example, to have one person from UK and one person from China, for example. It would be unfair, because what if that person, one of those dies, okay? If we go by weight on the earth right now, if one person from UK dies, yeah, I mean, it's a big culture, but it's nothing compared to the Chinese one. Mm-hmm. So you would want at least, 10 Chinese for every person from UK, okay?
Yeah, but when I answer Cliffjumper's question, I would say, I think what I was trying to say was, what we wouldn't do, and I don't think we could defend doing it, is say, right, well, everybody going on has got to be white from North America.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen a lot of problems. I mean, let's say, for example, that we have space for all the cultures but one. Okay, which one you're not going to take?
Here's another question as well. Given that we talked about, you being king of the world, you're able to, you tell everybody within the world they've all got to work together. All the nations have got to work together to do this and to reach the goal. But certain countries decide they are not going to participate in it at all. They're going to have nothing to do with building this craft.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with it. Should representatives of their nations be on board?
Oh, depending on which nations, the whole project is going to fail. So I think that a more pragmatic solution would be to invade those countries and make them work, by force.
Yeah, then you got administration problems. It's not.
Fuck it. Work. I mean, no. Hold on a second. I don't care about the administration. I mean, you don't want to participate. There's going to be slaves. Fuck it.
That's kind of what I meant. You're turning into.
And I wouldn't care for a single moment to do that.
I would be more inclined to say, well, okay then, you don't want to be part of the project. to actually build this thing and get it working and all the rest of it,
Well, there is a
then
difference.
you don't benefit from it.
No, there is a difference. If the project is going to fail because of the time constraints, if those countries do not participate, I would say fuck them, and we will try to conquer those countries in the fastest possible way, in the most bloody way. I wouldn't care, okay? Because I will have the need to access those resources.
Yeah, but
if they decide not to join and the project is going to go anyway, I mean, yeah, fuck them. Yeah, we'll leave them.
Yeah, because that was I think that was the decision I came to.
No, but that wouldn't be really an hard choice. I mean, I wouldn't be choosing, for example. I mean, they would be.
Yes.
choosing.
Yes. I hadn't thought about this invasion thing, but no, I wasn't thinking about a country refusing to participate that would then mean it was a failure. No, the slack could be taken up elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just wondering, should the citizens of those countries be part of the whatever selection?
Well, the one which want to participate, I mean, they can relocate, and if the state doesn't allow them to relocate, again, I invade the country and have the people which wants to relocate or whatever the hell or participate anyway. I mean, it's when you get to those problems, I think that you got to act in the most pragmatic possible way.
Yeah.
And and I understand that you would do things that normally you wouldn't do, like for example, right now, if someone decides, for example, to get out of Europe, they have a referendum, and fuck it, you decided that, it's okay. I mean, it's fine. There is a sovereign nation that decide what to do, and they'll take the benefits or the problems or whatever. I mean, but it's their choice. But when you choose something which is going to affect others, it doesn't work like that,
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with you there, especially about the relocation bit, because if you had a project like that, you would need as much manpower as possible. You would want the experts from those countries involved.
Again, it depends how important is the participation of those countries.
Well, there's another aspect as well. I mean, why would we be making one ship? Why not make 10 or 20? Because, ship goes from here to there and has an accident on the way. Well, we might as well just have stayed.
Because of time.
Yeah, time. You could only build one out. You had one.
I think you're missing what I mean is, why build one big-ass one when you can build, 20 smaller?
Because it's going to take you about 100 years just to build one.
Yeah.
And it's not that if you build two, it's going to take 100 years. Because you've got to send shit in space anyway. So the number of launches is going to double. Mm-hmm. It's not that... it's like when women get pregnant, it takes 9 months to make a child. But if you take 9 women, you don't have a child in 1 month. There's some things that take time,
Yeah.
But we're talking about multinations having, a resource, because of course you only need your engineers to design it once.
But you have to build it twice. But you have to build it twice.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's going to be enough resources across the planet to be able to replicate.
Well, according to the numbers before, if you make one launch a day, it's going to take 140 years. It's 51,000 plus launches of the biggest rocket that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more than 50,000. You want to split the job? You can get a 60,000 at best, but you still need to be that shit.
Well, why not have 10,000 plants making rocket plants so that you can have 50 launches a day?
Because you don't have the expertise in the world to do that.
Yeah.
There is only a bunch of nations which can actually build that kind of shit. It's not like, you know, I don't know. It's not like, you know, if UK decides, you know, to start a space program, you know, tomorrow, willy-nilly, they build a, you know, a Falcon 9 Heavy. Even with the projects and all the data, you still have to build the infrastructure. You have to build, you know, the factories. You have to train the engineers. You have to train, you know, the actual workers. There is metallurgy problems. It's a fucking nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look how look at the difficulties we have in just, you know, adding modules to the International Space Station. We'd be talking about having to make an awful lot of progress. And I mean, if you could get one built that worked, that would be a major achievement. To try and aim for two, I think you would run the risk of failing on both.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like shipping from Amazon. And if you buy a mouse or if you buy 10 mouse, you're gonna have money because, you know, the expenses are gonna get a little bit lower. They're gonna cost you the same amount of money to be shipped if you buy 1 or 10. So
yeah.
But does money matter?
it fucking does. Yeah.
It matters to us because we have a finite idea of it. But when there's a choice, you know, when Annihilation is looking at you, you start to think, well, there's more to life than money, kind of thing.
Listen, you know, you can call it money, you can call it barter, you can call it whatever you want, but nobody is self-sufficient. So I will need to go and take food anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can decide to have a, you know, to nations can decide, okay, you know what, we take all the agricultural resources and we're going to split, you know, the food equally among the other people. Only that thing is going to take so much time. It's going to be a waste of time. And it's not something that you can do it overnight anyway. So money will matter because, you know, even I mean, you have to have people working on that. And okay, you don't want to give them money, or you're gonna give them food, and you're gonna acquire food from people which grow food. And what are you going to give them? You got to give them something. You can't tell them, oh, you get a hitchhike on the you know, big ass spaceship, because that will not work.
We've got a large roll of duct tape for you.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, you wouldn't exactly be taking along cows and sheep.
No.
Couldn't do that. Interesting food for thought anyway. Right, guys, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me tonight, just to talk about this, because it's an interesting subject.
I'm actually astonished that people watch this.
It's an interesting wee thought experiment, though.
Yeah.
You know, just, you know, what would we do? What should we do? What could we do? And exploring the possibilities and the, you know, the no hope ideas and all the rest of that. That's been really interesting. And so thank you very much for joining me. And I'd like to thank those that stuck with us watching it. With a bit of luck, there won't be a neutron star in our future. Although I wish I hadn't said that. Now that is just asking for trouble. It is. I mean, oh.
But the good news is, I mean, you know, let's say you live until you're 100. At least you've only got 50 years of people say, bloody Fiona, you should have kept her mouth shut.
Exactly. I'm going to get the blame for the neutron star, haven't I? It's all Fiona's fault. Yeah. I'm going to blame Fabio.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, you're going to get the blame. If a neutron star comes, it was Fabio's fault, right?
I can take it. I mean, what is the worst that can happen to me? They're gonna kill me? Yeah.
My plan is to become a duct tape salesman.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you want to just duct tape people to the outside of the craft, don't you? Me, personally, I want to staple them on, but that's
I
beside
mean,
the point.
the best plan, if that happens, is that you learn to fix things.
Yes. You'll duct tape.
Or become a fucking carpenter, or learn to plow, stuff like that.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, this little planet that we think we might have found alien life on, if that happens to us, that little planet and its life is it's toast, because we're going to take the planet, if we can, which is a rather sad thought, isn't it? So anyway, on that sad note, we shall say good night. So say bye bye, everybody.
Bye bye, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.